Today, we review the Packers' 2025 schedule and each give our 2025 record predictions.
Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm cash.
Welcome in another episode of Sounds Gouda. Thank you, everybody, for coming back and taking a listen to us. I am one of your two co-hosts. My name is Rob Ralph. Next to me is my best friend, as always, Jordan Olson. Just know that we do have new content every Wednesday and Saturday on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So please make sure to give us a like, sub, and follow us on those platforms. Please try and help us out. We are trying to get to 600 subscribers. Anything you can do, generally be appreciated. Or maybe you've been a long-time listener and you just haven't subscribed yet. Would help out the show quite a bit. So, as I alluded to in the beginning, we are going to be deep diving a little bit more on the Packers 2025 schedule. So, pretty excited about that. And just, to begin off with like a best friend to best friend talk, Jordan, initially, what games are you the most excited to see for this year?
Yeah, hey everybody, welcome back to another show. I'm getting over a nasty cold, so for those of you listening, I definitely sound a little froggier than normal, so thanks for bearing with me here. It's been a rough couple of days in Kalamazoo. We've had illness at the house, we've had no power at the house, so excited to be back on here recording. But yeah, what games are we excited for? What games am I excited for? I would say that I have a lot of initial reactions. I'm very excited to be playing on Thanksgiving Day again. I really want redemption on a national stage, and I think there would be no better way than for us to get our revenge on Thanksgiving Day against the Lions. Like I have a lot of Lions fans in my family now, and they're not really the bad ones. But some of the Lions fan base has gotten a little ferocious, a little spicy, and I'd like to check them and put them back in their place a little bit. So there's that. Initially I was really excited to see some of these games on the schedule. I'm not really super thrilled with where a few of them ended up. Like I was really hoping to get to the Ravens game if it could work, but like sandwiching that right between the holidays, Christmas and New Year's is kind of tough, but like I am excited to watch that late season matchup between Lamar Jackson and Jordan Love. So I don't know. There's other games I'm excited for. Obviously, the Eagles rematch too. Although I'll share some thoughts about that game a little bit more later on. What about you, Rob? Are you excited for those games? You got other ones that you got circled?
Yeah, definitely. The Bengals one, it should be the Bengals, the Commanders, the Ravens, the Eagles, all at home. So those are going to be absolutely exciting for me. But I mean, this whole schedule is just littered with like awesome potential matchups. Week 8, who knows? Maybe Aaron Rodgers finally, decides to get off his retirement chair and decides to sign with the Steelers. Obviously, that's a primetime game, it looks like, Sunday night. So I think that's what the NFL folks are hoping for. So anyway, there's just a bevy of them. There's not really a bad game, per se, on this whole schedule that I'm seeing, but should be fun.
Which is fun from a viewership standpoint, maybe not as fun when we're doing our record predictions later on. I mean, if you want to be a good team, you got to beat good teams, right? So there's that, but it's the schedule is not very forgiving, which we'll talk about more in a minute. So throw out logistics, Rob. If you could attend one of these games, home or away, like you got a magic travel ferry and you could just teleport to watch one of these games, which one would you go to this season and cheer on the Pack?
That is really tough. That's really tough. I probably agree with you. I would say the Ravens, but I would definitely have liked that to be earlier in the year. So if not the Ravens, week 2 is still could be a little scorching hot. I remember that last year from when I was at the Colts game. But the Commanders, man, they're up and young and exciting with Jaden Daniels. So them and the Bengals. But so anyway, I know you said one. So if one, it's definitely going to be the Ravens for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was hoping when I scripted this question that it was going to be the Packers were going to be facing the Steelers in Ireland, and that would be the easy one, right? But there's no chance I'm getting to Ireland. And now that the Packers are not playing there, I don't have to worry about that. But, most likely I'm going to probably end up attending one of the earlier season games. I am very intrigued by that Jaden Daniels Jordan Love matchup too. Likely, maybe we'll see if I can get off and get to that Thursday night game. But, it would be super fun to travel down to Dallas into Jerry World and go see that Packers Cowboys Sunday night game. I've seen
Yeah.
the ticket prices are astronomical, so it's probably not going to happen. But that one would be really fun to sit there and watch Jerry Jones squirm in his chair as Jordan Love dismantles the Cowboys again. At least that's what I hope the result would be. But yeah, one last, I guess, interesting scheduling question or note before we get into a few things about it is, did you see that Josh Jacobs Packers schedule release video? What were your thoughts on that, Rob? I have a few.
I just initially thought it was a little weird. They're going for a dream, right? Obviously, dream, nightmare. I don't know. Twilight Zone, whatever. So yeah, I thought it was weird for sure. I'm always obviously humor, right? Like to laugh. So what the Titans do, what the Rams do. But for the Packers to actually put some energy and effort into doing that, whether they were made to do that or not. So I'll take that as a plus positive for the Packers. But initially, I thought that they could have done a little bit better.
Yeah, I just thought it was weird. And like you said, that was going to be my point, is they've really been criticized for not really trying to do much creative on social media and stuff before. So at least they're trying. There were some good cameos in there of some former Packers, which is
Yeah.
probably what I appreciated the most. And Mark Murphy's last F given, was kind of funny. But
Yeah.
anyway, so let's talk about the schedule. I don't know. I just kind of put the good, the bad, the ugly, some initial talking points about just like, and this isn't necessarily, we'll get into our predictions, but just kind of navigating how the NFL might have done with scheduling the Packers, some things that are in their favor, a lot of things that are not. But, the Packers finally get a home opener. First time since 2018. That's the great news. It's going to be a lot of fun. The bad news is, of course, it's against division rival, Detroit Lions. There's going to be a lot of smoke going into that game, but, you
Started off
know,
with a bang,
they're not playing on a neutral field in a foreign country. They're not playing on the road, so at least I like the odds of them having that game at home and taking some of that energy and the Packers and the fan base maybe having some more control in that situation.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Just to start it off, for the Packers, just a gauntlet of a schedule. What do they have? The fourth or fifth hardest schedule? It shows for sure. So that's awesome at the home opener. That's so good. But against the Lions, it's going to be really, really tough out of the gate. And then to follow that up, you're playing that next Thursday, at home, Thursday night football against the up and coming, really, really good, Washington, Dan Quinn and the Washington Commanders. So yeah, man. And then who knows, after that, you got the Browns. You never really know what the Browns, the quarterback situation is pretty bad, but they have a really good defense. They'll have some, and then and then the next week you got the Cowboys. Typically we've done really good with the Cowboys. So we'll have to see as far as that goes down in Dallas.
Yeah. Couple other like positive notes about the schedule, and then I could do a lot of complaining. We'll try to keep that to a minimum, because every NFL team has like a lot of challenges, some of which we've alluded to already. But like, you know, play on Thanksgiving Day, mentioned that's going to be fun. We have 5 primetime games that I counted. I don't know, the schedule or some social media that put out there says that we have 6. I'm trying to come up with the 6, unless they consider some of these, unless they're considering these 3:30 games, some of those primetime games, but those don't really match either, because then we'd have more. But, we've got the Thursday night game against Washington, Sunday night game against the Cowboys, Sunday night game against the Steelers, Monday night game against the Eagles, and then we play Thursday, a Thanksgiving game, holiday game against the Lions. So I think the 6th is technically, although it was on the official schedule, it's kind of a flex game. They said the Packers were going to play Saturday night against the Bears, but I see that game could be at 3:30 also. So that's how you get to your 5 or 6, however you're looking at it.
Yeah.
They play mostly a neutral rest advantage this season. It's a little bit in their favor early in the season and then kind of works against them later in the season. So
Yeah.
not a positive, not a negative, just kind of a neutral thing. And then, we get to probably face Aaron Rodgers in week 8, and that'll be a very fun and interesting storyline, kind of transitioning to the bad or, things are not excited about alluded to, but it's not going to be against the Steelers in Ireland. So that would have been, I think, exciting for a different way. But what were some of the other things that you saw that you weren't necessarily excited about when the schedule released, Rob, as we kind of transition into that part of analyzing this?
Yeah, I would like to see just maybe a couple more divisional games early on. Obviously, we get week 1 against the Lions, but then you don't get any until week 12, and then it's a bevy of divisional games there towards the end in our division with some other really good competition, including the Ravens there at the end, like we were talking about. Week 2 against the Manders on 4 days of rest. That's going to be really, really tough. I know that they're going to come out with just a ton of energy and excitement, wanting to beat the Lions for once, please. So who knows? That could be a possible game for a letdown. The Commanders are very good too. So either way, it's going to be a great game. 2 games against the Bears in a 3-week span. So we'll have to see, like, if the Bears truly at that point too, they'll be in rhythm. They'll be in the system of Ben Johnson. They'll know what they need to do. They've made a bevy of additions, to the offensive line, Loveland, right, the tight end in the draft, whatnot. So I'm expecting the Bears to be better this year. Who knows? The Bears can still Bears it up though. So, and then 4 road games in the last 6 weeks, 3 against the division, and then the Ravens, obviously the one as the home game there towards the end. So it's going to be, if the Packers are going to do something this year, they're going to need to be good to great teams consistently.
Yeah, I pinned that, like 2 Bears games in 3 week. I mean, from a fan perspective, from an advantage, like competitive perspective, that's really tough to get a divisional opponent twice in 3 weeks. I mean, you just played them. And then, like, basically, you got to turn around and do it again. There's not a lot of, I mean, I guess it's going to bring out who is really the best coach, because it's not like 8
Yeah.
weeks went by. It's probably mostly the same players. So we're going to really see, what is that, week 16? We play week 14, week 16. Whoever
Yeah.
wins the first game, it'll be who's the chess master in week 16. Is it Ben Johnson, like everybody says he is, all the Bears fans and himself, or is Matt LaFleur and the Packers coaching staff going to be able to put together, the better of those game plans coming off those meetings?
And just real quick too, and to make this just even a little bit more difficult, is after you play the Bears at home, you're traveling to Mile High in Denver to take on the Broncos, and then you're coming back.
Yeah. Got to travel west, and then you got to go play a road game. So that's brutal. But
Yep.
a couple other really things that I thought were terrible from the schedule in our ugly category. But the week 5 bye, I mean, I think it's the earliest bye you can get or close to it. They might do week 4 buys, but there's no real advantage gained for the Packers there. If they have any kind of injuries later on in the season, they can't even get a good rest in. So, really the earliest I like to see the bye is typically like week 7, and I still think that that's a very early bye, but they're going to have to play the whole back half of the season and hope that they're healthy. And then I feel really bad for the gold package ticket holders. And this is going to play right into that narrative. And I don't know if the NFL's like just trying to squeeze the Milwaukee fans out of there. But if you're not aware of it, the gold ticket package is the season ticket package that used to, or still does exist, for the Milwaukee fans. Really, the Packers used to play some games in County Stadium in the 70s and 80s. And when they moved back fully to Lambeau Field, they still honored some of those ticket packages, and they created this gold package where essentially you'd still get 2 regular season games and a playoff game or a preseason game at Lambeau, right? So recently there's been some criticism that the Milwaukee fans have sold a lot of those tickets, like last year's Thursday night game against the Lions, where we saw a lot of Honolulu blue there.
Yep.
But, like, you're asking these fans to take off Thursday, Friday from work. And that's just a lot to ask, you know? Like, then you've got Lions fans in that situation, right? Like, oh, I want to go to Lambeau. Tickets are half the price of what I would have paid to go to Ford Field. There's a ton of us in the UP, so why not? So, anyways, that's my short rant. Having a Thursday night game and a Monday night game for those Milwaukee season ticket holders, that's a really bad deal. Hopefully, if those fans have to sell those tickets because they can't take off of work or make those logistics work, that a lot of Packers fans scoop those tickets up.
Expect a lot of other tickets to those other teams on those nights.
I mean, the good news is it's like I don't know how well those East teams will travel, you know, whether it's the
That's true.
Commanders or the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles fans are probably going to travel pretty well. Not sure about the Commanders, but at least it's not just like a border battle and, you know, those fans are just making a short drive.
Yeah. That's
So,
the one nice thing about it, right? With the Lions that they had last year. And we saw Lions fans everywhere.
yeah. Um, cool. Let's jump into taking a look at our schedule, and I'm going to share my screen in a moment here. And then Rob and I are going to go through, talk a little bit about each game pretty briefly, and we're going to give our record predictions. So, yeah, just give me a second to get this set up.
Yeah, no pressure. I do feel this year, man, the Packers are going to have to play very, very well, to be competent. You're not playing the bottom dwellers of the AFC South. The Texans were the one good one, right? The Colts we had last year. I guess the Jaguars was a pretty close game from last year, but it is going to be tough against the NFC East.
All right. We are live and ready to go on this. So, we've got two little cheeses on the screen for those of you following along on YouTube. So our audio listeners, you won't be able to see this. We'll try to do our best to keep you going with where we're at if you're only on the audio side. But if you're watching on YouTube, we have the Packers schedule up. And every time Rob and I predict a Packers win, I'll be the yellow cheese icon and Rob will be the orange, and we'll see how this plays out in the end. But let's discuss week one, Rob. I'm going to give you the first crack at it. Do you think the Packers are going to win that week one game against the Lions at Lambeau Field?
Yeah, I do. I think they're going to come out with a lot of energy. I think that's going to help them. I think they're going to come out and run the rock quite a bit. I do know Detroit's defense will be a lot better this year, although I thought it was pretty good last year. Aiden Hutchinson will be back, so that'll definitely help them. So I think they do come out of the gates hot. Obviously, it'll be a close game, but I see the Packers pulling this one out.
I do not. And that pains me
And
to
that's
say.
fair. Man, that's fair.
I don't know. I just think that for one more game, the misery continues and we play in another dogfight against the Lions. And we lose. I don't know. I just have a bad feeling about it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that we can put a lot of long off season of trash talking at bay. But I don't feel it for week one, so I'm not gonna put a win there right now. Week two against the Washington Commanders, Thursday Night Football. What are your feelings about that one, Rob?
This is where I feel like they stumble. They come out of the gates hot. They beat the Lions with a ton of energy because they've gotten their asses kicked consistently by them. But then you come around on a short week against a really good young upcoming team with a really good, tenured coach and Dan Quinn. I loved what they were doing from last year, specifically towards the end of the year. So this is where I say that they, on a short week, have a little bit of a stumble too. So I think they lose this one.
I am going to go ahead and say that they're going to win this one. I'm having some technical difficulties. I got to grab the cheese and not the picture here. I'm going to go ahead and say that they're going to win this one. I feel like they're going to come back. They're going to be upset coming off that Lions loss. I do feel like they're as good of team on paper as the Commanders, and they're going to get this done on Thursday night. They're going to prevent going 0-2 on the season and 0-2 at home to start the year. So Jordan has a victory for the Packers in week 2. So we each got them at 1-1 through 2 weeks. So we go on the road. We play the Cleveland Browns the following week in week 3. What are your feelings about that, Rob?
Yeah, until the Browns show me something else besides a really good defense and solid run game, until they get a competent quarterback. I know this is on the road; it's in the dog pound, but I think that the Packers, if you see my narrative here, right, a win to a loss, I think they come back and go into Cleveland with a little bit more energy and take that one, as the Browns are not good, and I
So
don't
I
know what their quarterback.
got you as a win there, Rob. Yeah, I won't be long-winded. I agree with you. I think that the Packers go on the road. They take care of the Cleveland Browns. There's going to be a whole quarterback competition and controversy there. Who knows? Maybe we'll be seeing Shador Sanders throw the rock, but he's going to have a lot of seasoning to do to be ready. But Rob and I both have the Packers winning in week 3. So going into that big Sunday night showdown down in Dallas, Jerry World, week 4 against the Cowboys, what are your feelings about that?
I'm going to keep it short. We dominate in Dallas. Historically, we've dominated in Dallas. Dallas isn't the juggernaut they used to be. Set me up for a win for that one.
Yeah, I agree that the Packers are going to win that game as well. I like how we played historically there. I like how we match up against the Cowboys. And, maybe a little bit like the 49ers are our nemesis, and who knows, maybe it'll be the Eagles now. We have been the Cowboys' nemesis, and I think that bad dream continues for the Cowboys and their fans. So we've got our week 5 bye. We've discussed this is a terrible place for a bye, but then we've got a nice rest advantage going into a week 6 matchup with Joe Burrow.
Huh.
A matchup of 2 of the top 10 quarterbacks in this league. The Bengals have put a lot of money into this offense to retain those 2 wide receivers. How do you think the Packers will fare against the Bengals in week 6?
I think the Bengals are going to be good this year. They've had a couple of down years. Their defense is not going to be as good, so they're just going to huck it and chuck it all over the yard with Chase and Burrow. And that offense is elite. So I feel like this one will be a close one, but I'm tapping this one as a loss for the Packers.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give the Packers a win here. So I think that you mentioned it. The Packers defense is going to give them a big advantage in this game. And while Joe Burrow and that offense are certainly going to put up some points, I do believe that the Packers will outscore the poor defensive effort that the Bengals will put up. Plus, they're coming off their bye week. It's at home. It's an October game. I think all the recipes are there for them to win this game, regardless of who they played in this spot. Put the Eagles in this spot or the Ravens in this spot. I still feel pretty good about this game. Let's go to week 7, traveling out west to Arizona to face the Arizona Cardinals, which are kind of an interesting team. I think they're building momentum, but what are your thoughts about the week 7 matchup against the Cardinals?
This one's a little bit more tough. I've had some troubles in Arizona. I think last time we were there was the Rasul Douglas interception game, right? That we won.
Mhm.
So I think that this, man, you never know. The Cardinals are like very hot and cold every year. So they're a little bit cold last year. Maybe this is the year they end up being very hot. Murray can turn it on. But I'm gonna go ahead and say that we take a W here on this one for me.
Okay. This one feels like a trap game to me.
Uh-huh.
We should win. We should be favored. And we are going on the road, and we never travel well west. Initially, I had a win scheduled here. When I was doing this exercise on my own, it might be too complicated on YouTube here without looking like a putz. But I put a green cheese here, some moldy cheese, because I feel like it's going to be a win. But I also feel like this is a spot in the schedule that feels like a place where the Packers stumble a little bit. So I'm going to stay off it right now. I predict we maybe lose a close one on the road as our travel issues out west continue. So week 8, we'll hopefully maybe see the Packers play Aaron Rodgers. Um, if we're not playing Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, who knows who's going to be their quarterback? It could be Mason Rudolph, could be somebody else. But how are you feeling about that road game in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, so just that. If Aaron Rodgers plays, I think they have a really good chance. Tough to play in Pittsburgh. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't play, you know, which he isn't on the team right now, so put me in a win in Pittsburgh for that. I think the Packers string together some wins here, and that is strictly on the caveat of Aaron Rodgers not being on the Steelers right now. If he is, then maybe yeah, I could see this as a loss or even closer game.
Yep, I have it a win as well. I won't be long-winded. I just feel good about it. Two historic franchises. It is a road game, but I do think I don't think the Packers will lose back-to-back road games, and I think they get it done against the Steelers with or without Aaron Rodgers at the helm. So week 9 against the Carolina Panthers, we return home for a noon game. Thoughts on that, Rob?
Loving the way the Carolina Panthers were playing towards the end of the year last year. They gave some fits to a lot of really, really good teams, including the Eagles game. I remember that. So um, this could be this might be Rob's trap game. It feels very trappy to me. If that makes any sense. But I think that they do put together 3 wins. I'm gonna stick with my gut feeling on that. So shoot me down for a win on week 9 at home against the Panthers.
Okay, I am going to stay with I just gonna stop next year when we do our schedule release. Find a different method for messing around with these cheeses because I'm struggling a little bit here. But I agree with you. I think that the Packers are going to win. I feel less concerned that this is a trap game, just maybe one that they hopefully take care of at home. I think that Bryce Young, I still think that he's got a lot of work to do to be a competent quarterback. I still see that roster fairly talent deficient, at least a big gap between where the Packers are at right now. So I have a victory in week 9 against the Panthers. All right, big one against the Eagles, week 10. What do you think, Rob?
Eagles are very good. You've heard me consistently talk about them. They are the Super Bowl champs. I think that this is where they end up having a hiccup against a really good Eagles team. So put it down as a loss for me for the Packers.
Yeah, I don't like anything about this matchup other than it's at home. Like we talked about, it could be a Milwaukee package. The fan base might not be there in full force. Although, come on, guys, I think we're going to show out this year for that game. The Eagles have a bye going into that game, so they've got like a plus 7-day rest advantage. The Eagles seem like they're a tier ahead of us in terms of talent right now. So, at this point in time for me, it's going to be tough because they've lost week 1 against the Lions and they've lost week 10 against the Eagles. As I'm predicting this, the narrative is going to start again at this point in time. Can the Packers stick with the best? And that's a narrative we're going to have to deal with. But Rob and I both predict a loss against the Eagles. So moving to week 11, noon game against the New York Giants on the road. What are your thoughts, Rob?
We've struggled in New York against the Giants, especially against backup quarterbacks that run for 1,000,000 yards on us. Yeah, I don't know how Jackson Dart will be this year. They have a dual Carter. Will he have a really good rookie year? But I think until the Giants show me something, I'm going to put this down as a win for us. So.
Yep. I agree. I think it's a win. I think that there's a large talent deficiency here. And I think that this is a game the Packers just go and get done, regardless of it being a road contest. So both Rob and I predict wins against the Giants in week 11. All right, we're back to some divisional games. We've got a Week 12 matchup at home against the Vikings. What are your thoughts here, Rob?
So the Vikings got really, really good on paper in a lot of different places, offensive line, defense. But there's one that is strictly a wild card, and I'm not sure how it's going to work out. If there's a coach that could ever is the quarterback guru of the league, it is definitely KOC, Kevin O'Connell. So he could definitely do it. But I see this as a win for the Packers, as I just think McCarthy goes through a typical, I guess this is his second year, right? But rookie season for him and his first year figuring out the league. So I will take that as a win for the Packers.
Yeah, I am not going that direction. I feel like the Packers are going to continue their divisional struggles a little bit at this point in time, and they're going to lose this Week 12 matchup at home against the Vikings. Further stirring the pot, now we've lost to the Eagles, the Lions, and the Vikings, the three teams that we had as nemesises last year that kind of ended our season, or at least the narrative of our season the way we wanted it to go. So I'm going to say the Packers lose this one in Week 12, but I do think that they bounce back the following week going to Thanksgiving game. We'll all be with our family and friends, full of turkey at this point in time. Or, we usually, as if it's a noon game or 1 o'clock game, we usually eat Thanksgiving dinner after the game, kind of snack during the game. But I think the Packers are going to get it done on the road on Thanksgiving against Detroit, and they're going to end that divisional narrative, end that narrative of the Packers. Can they beat the best, play with the best? So I'm predicting a Week 13 win. What do you think, Rob?
We are opposites, it seems like, on this schedule for this year, which is great. It gives good opposing opinions, but put me down as a loss. Quick turnaround on Thanksgiving. We'll have to end up seeing with all the coaches, positional coaches, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson leaving that team, how that team actually performs. They still have a lot of, actual talent on the field, but I'm going to take this one as a loss in Detroit on Thanksgiving.
Yep. We're both 1-1 against the Lions, though, which, so
We
right
just
now,
flopped them. Yeah.
yeah. So going into Week 14 against the Bears at home, this is a noon game. How are you feeling about that one?
Yeah, I feel good about that one. Man, I'm really curious to see how the Bears do this year. The additions that they made their offensive line, obviously Ben Johnson, Dennis Allen as the defensive coordinator coming over from Saints. He's, really good defensive coordinator. So, yeah, I'm curious, but I think that the Packers pull this one out after a tough loss, and what do they have? 10 days to recover after that as well to get ready for this game.
Yep. So I put you down for a win. I put myself down there as well. I do feel good about this divisional game at home. It's a noon game that everything should be comfortable after 9-10 days rest. I do think the Packers will take care of business. And for me, that makes the Packers 2-2 in the division at this point in time. And I think, Rob, you have them at 3-1. Yeah.
That's how I
So
like it.
that would be good. Okay, going on the road, going out to Denver to face the Broncos in a Week 15 matchup. What are your thoughts there, Rob?
Yeah, it's tough. It's always tough in Denver, for any team, but specifically one, traveling out west. Broncos are a really good team, man. Nix is going to be even better in a second year. They got a good coach in Sean Payton, great offensive line. Their defense was solid. I want the Packers to finally win in Denver for sure. And we'll see how, the rest of the early season goes for the Broncos, but I feel like this one is probably a loss for the Packers.
I just have a good gut feeling about it, but I think
Yeah,
that
I love it.
in the Bo Nix, Jordan Love, in the first matchup of their career, that the Packers are going to go out to Denver. I keep wanting to say Dallas. They're going to go out to Denver. They're going to get it done. Sean Payton has very well coached teams, but hopefully the Packers are firing on all cylinders. They're feeling good coming off the Bears win. And then they show that, hey, maybe it's not they did beat, I have them beating the Lions just previously, but now they start to build the narrative back up after the first half of the season has shown, hey, we still have questions if the Packers can beat these playoff teams. Well, they took care of the Lions. Now, a couple weeks later, they go on the road, they take care of the Broncos, and they're starting to get some confidence going into the playoffs. So week 16, now we have the second Bears game in 3 weeks. How are you feeling about that, Rob?
Yeah, Bears are going to be hungry after losing to us not that long ago back at home. So for us, I think that this one, I could see us splitting this one and have a couple games skid for us here towards the end of the season, which I hope I'm very, very wrong on. But again, this is just my gut feeling. So I'm going to take this one as a loss for the Packers.
Yeah, this is nothing other than gut for me, and I think the fact that we're going to split as well. But I agree with you. I think that we lose, you know, Saturday night classic in Chicago, which kind of fuels this rivalry back. So this would cause the Packers and the Bears to be 1-1 again on the season. So
Yep.
that will spark this narrative. But yeah, I don't feel great about sweeping the Bears. So Rob and I are both giving the Packers a loss in week 16. So we return home for a big late season matchup against the Ravens. What are your thoughts there, Rob, in week 17?
So a lot of people probably pick the Packers to lose, even being at home for that matter, right? The Ravens are juggernauts, very very good. So this is where I say that this is the turning point for them, and they turn around and surprise us and pull off a very thrilling victory against the very good Ravens.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same thing as you. Maybe everybody will be on this juju, but I think that the Packers are, as I said, despite losing week 16 to the Bears, I do think that they are going to start rolling in this back half of the season. This is going to be a pivotal game. They are going to take down the Ravens here. And like I said, kind of solidify the fact that when the Packers are playing well, they can beat any team that they want to. Rob and I are both predicting the Packers to beat the Ravens in week 17. And then we end the season week 18, which who knows what will happen if, the Packers at this point in time, I think I have them down for 11 wins. If they're not playing for the division anymore, who knows if they'll be playing their starters,
Yeah.
you know. Hopefully Matt LaFleur makes a more definitive decision if that were the case of whether he wanted to rest people or play people and not play that terrible, I'm going to kind of do both. We saw how that ended last year. But what do you think about the week 18 matchup against the Vikings?
A lot of really good points there too, Jordan. A lot of this depends, so we're early season predictors here for sure, no doubt. But again, what do the Vikings have in their quarterback? That's just a massive question mark to me. I think the rest of the team, the coaches, everything else could definitely do it, like I alluded to from before. So I take this one as the Packers are heading into the playoffs with some momentum. Give me a win.
I feel the same way, so I'm not going to really litigate too many things there. I just feel like the Packers are going to want to show a little bit different story going into next year. That Matt LaFleur will decide that, hey, I'm going to play some guys. It's important for us to win against these divisional teams. At this point in time, winning that last game for me, anyways, in my prediction would make them 3-3. They can't afford to go, 2-4 in the division from a, big brother standpoint. That game's going to mean something to them. It might mean playoff seeding. For me, this would be their 12th win of the season, maybe 13th if they don't have that moldy cheese game against the Cardinals. But they're going to have one of those. It's just a matter of when it is. So there you have it. I know my final prediction is 12-5 at this point in time. So Rob,
11-6.
you're 11-6.
Yep.
Okay, both I think squarely put us in the playoffs. We'll go ahead. We'll
Should.
share this out on socials so you can follow along after I can clean that up a little bit more. But yeah, that was fun. A little bit longer episode today, but a lot of good things to talk about. Kind of just my last note, and Rob, maybe you have a feeling, but I would imagine that with 11 wins, you probably feel the same way, that they're probably not winning the division with 11 wins. I think even 12 wins, my prediction is going to be hard for them to win the division. They might be
Yeah.
in a tiebreaker scenario,
Yep.
but I don't know, just my gut feeling right now is the Packers finish second place in the division again and get hot going into the playoffs and make some noise. And then hopefully that's the momentum to take the division back fully in 2026 at that point in time. But who knows? They've built a team. I think they're capable of winning the division. They just got to get some things right. So
Agreed. That's spot on to what I would think as well. And I'll hope for we'll both hope for the optimism, take over the division for sure.
well, here we are. We're hopefully being like realistic and not just the podcast that's like, blowing smoke that the Packers are going to win 14 games and we're going to win the division, right? We have some things that the Packers need to prove. So we'll keep it real with you there. But that's all we got for you. Just a reminder that we've got more Packers content every Wednesday and Saturday. Thanks for listening. Make sure to share this with your family and friends and other Packers fans. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button like we mentioned. That really helps. Comment away. Let us know what you think your record prediction is for the season. But we're also on Apple Podcast and Spotify as well. So connect with us on X. I'm at Olson Jordan. Rob is at Sounds Gouda with 3 A's. But until next time, Packers Nation, have a Gouda morning, a Gouda afternoon, and a Gouda night. Go Pack.
Go Pack.
Been wanted this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey.